Hey guys, welcome back to LS Vintage Design. I'm Lisa. I'm sorry I've been gone for a while, but I have been battling the flu, and my husband has been ill as well. But I'm back today, and I wanted to kick off this week with our series we are doing, Redecorating Your Home on a Budget with a Vintage Look, Vibe, Style. And today we are talking furniture, and furniture is probably the biggest chunk of our redecorating budget because you just can't get around it. Furniture's just expensive. But we're going to talk about different types of furniture you can use, how you can mix and mingle new with reproductions, and kind of what are the pros and cons of going with real versus reproductions. So let's just jump into this. And I think the perfect place to start is the kitchen. If you have an eat-in kitchen, a simple table, something like this, with 4 chairs would probably be amazing and look just beautiful in any space. And I picked this particular set. It is a Danish repop set. And the reason I picked this is because the wood and the chairs are very clean lined, very simple, but you get that vintage MCM look, which is my style. Of course, you can go for a vintage Art Deco, Neo Renaissance, missionary, classical, whatever, Victorian, whatever your style is, okay? Mine is MCM, so that's what our examples will be. But I went with this set again because it's very simple, very clean line. It has a modern look to it, even though it is a vintage reproduction. And the reason I chose something like this is because most kitchens today are very modern. And you want something that when you pick a table for your kitchen, it has to blend in with your vibe in your kitchen, okay? If it doesn't, you're not going to be happy, but you might not be able to figure out why. Something will be off. And it will be because your kitchen table is not playing nice with the other parts of the room. So if you have a very modern, sleek kitchen, the grays, the marble or the granite, the marble or the quartz countertops, stainless steel, you're going to want to warm it up. That's why I went with the wood. The wood always warms, but you're going to want something that mimics that modern clean line style, and that's what this set does. Now you can also get this set because it is repop. You can get it in a black, which if you feel that would even go more with the gray and you don't want to add that touch of warmth, that's fine. Everybody's different. But you still would pick a set like this. Then you would get that repop, that vintage feel, but still have that nice, clean, crisp, modern look to it. Now, let's go into the dining room. If you're in a home and you have a dining room space, again, what is your room saying? What are your walls saying? Have you painted your walls one of the vintage repop colors we talked about? Are you going for a 70s vibe? Do you have a very neutral dining room? White walls, nothing on the walls, and a very neutral beige or gray curtain up. Then you're pretty much free to do whatever you want to with your dining room set. And if you're watching this, obviously you want to take that cold, modern dining room and warm it up. You want to add familiar. You want to add homey, love, because that's what vintage says. Now, if you're going to pick a vintage, a real vintage, pick whatever style you want to go with. Because if you have that white walls, gray curtain, beige curtain, whatever, you can pretty much go with anything. warm it up, again, you want to go with a wood. Wood warms the china cabinet, the buffet, the table, and the 6 chairs. So I went with wood. It marries in, it blends in, it just complements the colors. Now, if you have a white room, it's going to warm it up. It's going to add that glow. If you have a cold tile floor, putting this set in yours would really warm it up and give you that homey feeling. That's what wood does. But let's say you don't want vintage, you would prefer a repop look, and you want a more modern take on a vintage look. You could do something like this. Now, when you do something like this, your room is still reading a bit cold, so maybe throw a rug down underneath just to warm it up, just a touch, while keeping that very sophisticated look going. Now, family room, living room could be interchangeable rooms, so we're just going to talk about one. And in my living room, which I'm showing you here, I have mixed a modern couch and 2 modern wing back chairs, but there's something about that furniture. It has a very Victorian cut to it. The wingback chairs and the wave on my sofa are very reminiscent of a Victorian style. But they're modern. And I mixed those with very mid-century modern, true vintage mid-century modern Lane dovetail tables that we bought and my husband redid. And they marry, as you can tell, really well. Because one, the furniture is modern. It's not true Victorian. It has the curves. It's the style in a modern way. But it's modern enough that those curves soften those wood tables. And that's a trick. You use the curves of your furniture to soften your tables, or you add rounded tables. You have a soft table in the center, like a round ottoman or a round table, and you soften maybe the more squared off furniture like that. Now, let's talk about any type of seating that is upholstered and stuffed that is vintage. The pros of getting true vintage chairs, sofa, is that it's real. You know, it's from the exact period. You've got what you want. The disadvantages are upholstery can wear thin, it can snag, it can fade, stuffing can get beat down, get flat, and you're gonna have to redo them, okay? And if this is real vintage, most likely you've probably already paid anywhere between $1,000 to $2,500, which is a lot. And then to get whole chairs or a whole sofa recovered is even more cost. That is why in my home, I went with the modern chairs and sofa and did the vintage tables. You can, in my tables, like I said, we bought, they were not in good shape, they looked awful, and my husband redid them. The reason we did that is because you get a better price redoing them yourself. Now you can get modern tables like these and mix them with true vintage couches, chairs like this. But again, you run the risk of of smells. Because remember, everybody smoked back in the day too. So you could have cigarette smoke, you could have just life smells, cooking, not to mention the fading, the thinning, and the mushed downness. Also, something to keep in mind is people back decades ago were smaller than us. They were smaller human beings. So these chairs and sofas that are true vintage are smaller. They're lower to the ground. They're not as wide. We went to look at a chair. And the chair is the seat area between the 2 arms and the back was literally about probably 14 inches wide. That was it. And my husband's a big man, and he couldn't sit in that. So that's something else to consider when you buy true vintage, is the size. And that's okay. There are a lot of lovely repop options that are made to size today. Lastly, let's talk about the bedroom. And again, you can mix pieces of furniture in the bedroom with real vintage and repop, or you could buy a whole set. Now, buying a vintage dresser, chest of drawers, chest, that's all end tables, that's all wonderful. But again, the bed is going to be lower to the floor. So you're going to get the sensation that when you go to bed at night, you're going to fall in to the bed. Even if you buy, you have the new nice thick mattresses, the bed frame's lower. Also, the beds were smaller. There weren't California Kings back in the 50s. So I would suggest getting something nice and vintage. If you want true vintage, a little taste of true vintage in each room, get a nice little dresser like one of these. And then mix in a new repop bed like this, and mix in a nice, maybe a nice bench for the end of the bed. But then you'll have your vintage dresser, your vintage chest of drawers, a vintage night tables if you want. Then mix in some repop lamps. You can intertwine repop modern with vintage and get beautiful outcomes. It doesn't have to be all or nothing in either one. My voice is going, sorry guys. Have an amazing night. I will see you on Saturday because today is Tuesday. And again, we are going to talk about vintage crafts you should try in 2024. Bye. Check out our Etsy shop and our website. If you have any design questions, want to talk vintage design for your home, office, travel trailer, or you want to schedule a consultation for that or a vintage tea party, head to our website. Everything's down below, guys. Bye.